not as possibly bleak as this. This could be the most dramatic story of the season. Here they come again. Drunk by. And it's in the back of the net for Lewandowski. Can you believe it? The man for the big occasion, the big man.
The big man. Wow.
What's up, everyone, and welcome back to Box to Box. We are here in Nashville on tour, and we are in the studio.
We're doing an acoustic session.
This is an acoustic, yes. We have a very special guest on the pod with us today.
Oh.
Our producer, Jack Harris.
Oh, yeah.
Clap.
Yeah, definitely. Hello, everyone. My name I just got really nervous. My name is Jack Harris. I am music director for Box to Box. All those sounds you hear came from my brain.
That's what's up. Yeah.
That is what's up.
Shout out Connor.
Shout out Connor Nix in the studio as well. He mixed all of those beautiful songs that you heard, the intro, everything. Here he comes.
Yeah,
That's him.
pop your
Say a
face
little
in.
thing.
Say something. Yeah.
Say something. Come on.
Scaredy cat. But
Yes.
yeah.
So we're here in Nashville just hanging out for the weekend, but we wanted to be productive and produce some content for y'all. So
Right before we go to Top Golf.
exactly. So we might have
We're
to
getting a text any minute.
So we
we're
might
on
have
the
to
list,
hop
so we
out
might
of
have
here.
to leave. But we're here. We're watching the second half of the Chicago Fire game. They're playing Orlando. So we're just chilling.
What is Orlando's like mascot?
It looked like
Orlando
Is it a lion?
Suns?
It's the sun from Teletubbies. That's what it is.
Well, this is Shakira's first home game, so
Do you remember that machine in Teletubbies that like dispensed cookies?
Yeah, 100%. That was pretty cool.
Do not remember.
I don't remember that.
No, I
It came
don't.
around. It was like
It-
it was a
it's a thing.
vacuum, but also like it was just like their butler. You know?
Oh yeah, and it like just like gave you giant cookies out of its stomach.
Yeah.
Yeah, that show was a little weird. Not gonna lie.
Not
That was
gonna
a
lie.
baby in the
Sweet.
sun. That was odd.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, she's
Oh.
in.
Oh.
Ah.
Oh, he's offsides.
I'm so excited to have Shakiri on Chicago Fire.
Yeah. What did we look up yesterday? The Fire paid like $8 million for him, which is a
Yeah,
lot. That's like probably our highest transfer ever. But
MLS like transfers make no sense to me. It's like these teams that they have like a salary cap. They're relatively small in terms of like the international game, but then like can shell out like Chicago Fire can shell out 7-8 million.
Yeah, where's that
That's
money
where
from?
is that coming from? That's like a
Yeah.
little weird.
I'm fully for it though.
Yeah, we got
I do
Shakiri.
not
Yeah.
care the source of the money.
Jordan.
well, we were looking at the salaries yesterday, and they range from $2 million, $3 million to $60,000,
Yeah.
which is drastic, honestly.
Like in the
So-
MLS.
and-
there's,
no,
like,
on the Fire, like their specific team.
that's really low for like a sport in America. Like 60,000.
Extremely low. Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm sure like that's means that there's definitely people being paid lower just on different teams. you
Yeah.
know? So yeah, it is kind of wild. Jack, I don't know if Jack isn't much of a soccer fan, but
I'm a big fan of the pod.
big
but
fan of the pod, right?
I listen to the pod to keep up with soccer.
Yeah. But I don't know if you saw, but Chicago Fire just signed Xherdan Shaqiri
Okay.
from Liverpool, and so he
Not Liverpool.
Is that just
Lyon,
Lyon.
I guess.
wasn't he on loan at Lyon?
Oh, maybe.
I think it was
that
on,
actually.
Yeah, he was on
it
loan at
Liverpool?
Lyon, but it's still a
That's pretty sick.
Liverpool
Is
player.
it becoming more and more regular that we see like European soccer players coming over to MLS nowadays? Like,
Yeah, like Shaqiri is the first example of a guy who's like relatively young, and the same with Insigne. Who these guys are? It used to be like Ibra and like Lampard and those players when
Schweinsteiger.
they
Players like when they're
Schweinsteiger,
past their prime, pretty
they're
much.
like
okay,
35 years
oh,
old.
okay.
And
I
they
I was
come
gonna
play.
ask like, what's the incentive to like go from European soccer to American soccer?
Money.
But well, yeah,
Money
and
and
brand.
also-
And brand.
brand.
Yeah,
and
they
you
said
just
they're
get to
past
kind of
that.
like mess around, honestly. You know, they're so much
Yeah.
better a lot of times that they'll come over and just like have fun with it for 2 years, live in America,
Yeah.
Somewhere new.
Yeah.
paid a
Make
bunch
some
of
money.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they can make a lot of money because MLS is set up where three of their players they can pay whatever they want, and then the rest of the players they have a salary cap. So
Okay.
they usually have 3 players from different countries that they like shell out. Like it doesn't matter how much they pay them. So like Schweinsteiger or Shaqiri are probably making, not sure how much they're making, but
I have
like
no idea.
Those
probably
are
like four or five times more than like more
yeah.
a lot of the players on the MLS teams.
That's like the designated player or
Yeah,
something
designated
like that.
player rule.
Yeah. No, I think a big difference too is I think Neymar was talking about this. If you play in the US, if you play for MLS, you have like 3-month break, honestly, for the summer. And they don't play. And in
What?
Europe, if you're playing on a team, you're playing pretty much year round.
Oh, really?
And a small break in the summer.
Yeah.
Why is the break so much longer here? Is it just because it's not as serious?
I don't know. I think it might just like be built in. Like we have breaks for football, basketball, things like that.
Mhm.
So
I
they
think
kind of
there's
just
also-
follow that same thing.
In Europe, there's also so many other like tournaments that they're involved in, whereas
Yeah.
for MLS, it's kind of you're playing in MLS. There's not as many like extra games, so their calendar is probably a lot lighter
Mm-hmm.
in
Yeah,
general.
that's
So the season I would assume is a little bit shorter because it could be condensed a bit.
Yeah. And oftentimes, I guess in the summer, there's like big international tournaments, I guess. So if they're playing for an international team, oftentimes they'll play for them during
Okay.
the summer. Like World Cup, Euro Cup, those are
Right.
typically
Yeah.
during the summer.
And after like a 12-year career of, if you're like Schweinsteiger who plays on a club and country, you probably he didn't have any breaks until for 12 whole years that are like more than a couple weeks,
Mhm.
And then you come to MLS and
Yeah, I
you
would-
get like a full off season and you just play.
Just play in
Um,
Miami. Like,
Yeah.
Yeah,
Sounds
I
kinda
would probably come to
sweet.
MLS too, honestly.
yeah.
Yeah.
No, but like Tom was saying, it will be interesting to see if Shaqiri is actually like good and kind of makes it more of a career move than it's just like something for fun,
Yeah. Just playing the straight man here because I know nothing about this.
Right.
Who would you say is like the most surprising MLS like signee like from abroad? Because I
I-
remember, didn't Ibrahimovic go to
Yeah.
like play on the LA Galaxy or something?
Yeah, but I feel like Ibra, like he played for the Galaxy, but he's like older, so it kind of made sense to kind of follow suit of
Okay.
some other guys. I think what Tom was just mentioning this guy Lorenzo Insigne is pretty much like at the peak of his career,
Mhm.
and just got signed to Toronto.
Toronto, he's like 30.
Yeah.
And he's one of the better players on Napoli, who are in the Europa League. They usually are competing to be in the Champions League.
They're a
And
top
he's
two team.
and he's one of their better players. So it's very odd to see a player. It's usually like he would play like 3 or 4 more years at Napoli or like a Serie A club, then come to the MLS.
And it was funny, actually, the way he got signed, or at least this is what the manager of Toronto's FC said, was that he was watching the Euros over the summer and Italy won, and he was like okay, like who are some of their better players that have a contract expiring soon, which is literally like what we do when we're messing around looking on like all these like websites online looking at salaries and stuff. He basically was doing the same thing. He was like, oh, Insigne's contract is almost up, let's give him a nice deal
Yeah.
and see if we can swing it, and obviously it worked out.
And he's getting paid a ton.
Well, he must
honestly.
be. Yeah.
I think it's I don't know what the number is.
Yeah. I think most of the GMs in the MLS are probably just like guys that played FIFA career mode.
We're
They're really into it.
we're prepping for our career.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
You can
I,
go
I was gonna
next.
say
Your
I don't
time.
know if it's like good for the league, like long term
Mm.
for the league. I think a lot of times like Schweinsteiger, Ibra, like there's the hype for that first year, and then it's kind of like over.
You mean good for it's not good for MLS?
Yeah, because I think a lot of times they're labeled as the retirement league, where
Yeah.
all these stars end up going to the MLS and then they play for a year. The team gets super hyped. They have this superstar, but he's like kind of on his decline instead of just investing in like their own talent.
Yeah,
You
it's
know?
been like that for years. Like, before the MLS, it was like the SNWL or whatever the first big league in America was, and there was like Beckenbauer and Pele and other these huge players back then would come to the America after their career, and it really hasn't changed all that much in what that was like in the 70s, 80s. It's been
Yeah.
40 years. We're still kind of the retirement league, but I feel like it is getting.
It's getting better for
it's
sure.
trending better, yeah. And there's young, like 30-year-old players coming, and that's like young if they're like
Ish,
some of the
yeah.
better players. But that's trending towards like players coming in their relative peak.
I think
Mhm.
also one thing that is pretty evident is the amount of like talent that's coming out of America is definitely on the up. There's a lot more kind of like younger talented players that they'll play in the MLS and then go to a bigger team. But I think yes, that kind of hurts the MLS because obviously players are leaving.
Mm-hmm.
But I think it kind of just gives more credit in general to like American soccer, because teams are now recognizing that okay, there is some talent here. They're focusing more of their scouting efforts over here, or some more. So it definitely is interesting to see that happen.
Yeah.
Do you think that another question? Just a softball.
These are good. These are
just,
good.
just as an audience member,
Right.
And this might sound like a dumb question. I'll just go for it.
Hey, just go for it.
Do you think that like with the signing of what was his name?
Shaqiri.
With that, do you see like a future where MLS soccer is as hyped as like Premier League soccer? And like, do you think that's far off? Like, what are your thoughts on that?
That's a good question.
I think I think it does revolve around money pretty much. Premier League can sign the best players because they have the best TV deal, and that's like Premier League in the 90s was pretty similar, like in terms of how many people were watching it, with La Liga and like Serie A, the Italian and Spanish leagues. But then they got like this crazy TV deal. They got a lot more money, and they started like buying a lot of these players. I think MLS, because America is inherently a wealthy country, could kind of get to that point, but it'd still have to start boxing out the other sports in America. Like football.
Yeah.
It would have to
Yeah.
get to the
That's
point
true.
where it would overtake like the NHL or
I
something.
think
like
it's
that.
happening though, because I think the MLS is growing crazy. We see baseball declining massively,
Ugh.
honestly.
Don't
I
say
know
that.
that's one of your top sports, but I would say MLS and maybe basketball are the ones that are growing
Yeah.
majorly in the USA. And then football is also, I would say, declining just because of, safety things. And people don't want their kids playing football,
That's
honestly.
true. Yeah.
It's like the demand for those things are going down.
Yeah.
And so now people are going to be willing to throw more money into this market. This
Yeah,
being
that
the
is
game that I'm
Mhm.
gesturing to. The MLS game that we're watching.
Yeah, and I think, like Tom was saying, it will kind of take a bold investor to start it off. Because, if someone needs to buy one of these teams and, back them pretty seriously financially, to, get them kind of a nice stadium, kind of build some hype within the city and get some exciting players in there. And I think that's honestly what it will take. I think someone needs to kind of start off and just show that it is like a profitable market, or at least turn it into a profitable market. And then, if more and more teams are competitive, then more players will come. But I think I think the hard part is the fact that the players want to play also where they're getting paid, but also where the higher competition is, because obviously those usually go hand in hand. So it's kind of hard to bring one and not have the other, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
But I think it is trending up in general. So I think it will definitely.
Yeah. If I had the money, I'd invest in an MLS team, honestly. Because out of all the teams, I think sports teams in general have an insane return on your money. I mean, Chelsea right now, Abramovich bought them for like 180 million in 2003, and it's going to be in the range of maybe 2 or 3 billion.
Yeah.
And that's across football teams, basketball
decent
teams,
return.
That's
things
pretty
like
decent.
that. Yeah.
Mad decent.
And I mean,
Major bag
obviously you have major bag alert. But if you have that money, it is more risky. But yeah, I think it's growing.
Yeah, I can't wait for the just like some crazy rich oil companies to buy the Chicago Fire, and then we start buying Mbappe
was
at age 29.
I was gonna say that'd make a really good movie, like like a crazy guy just being like, I'm gonna make the best MLS team, and like it just starts this whole thing, or like a documentary or something.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's gonna take the money though, because there are teams in like Qatar and Saudi Arabia that have owners like that, and they have
that's
that
true.
money,
Yeah,
and they're not just gonna go buy.
That's why I'm saying you need like competition aspect too.
It needs to be the competition, and I think the problem is getting these retirement players. I mean, I don't consider Shaqiri like that, but like Schweinsteiger, like there were probably players at that point better than Schweinsteiger in the MLS,
Yeah.
because he's like 34 years old and playing. I think they should invest in a younger overall, I don't know, league or players. And then obviously the best players are still going to get poached and go to
Yeah, I think that's the
MLS
hard
and stuff
part.
like that.
Because like it would be also just from a U.S. perspective, it would be more fun to really cheer for like Brendan Aronson or something, someone like an American player. But all the best ones leave, so it is a little.
They
it is a
leave
little
young
tough.
and they come back old.
Yeah, for real.
Yeah.
It's like your children go away for college.
And then when they come back from college, they're broke. They're like, I need money. Anyone have kids here?
Yeah, let's just get to know each other.
Yeah, our demographic is just definitely parents.
Young.
Well, actually, I was running this YouTube ad for our Instagram post, and I can check the demographics.
Yeah.
We had there was like 2% were older than 65.
Yo,
So,
shouts out.
Yeah.
Oh.
What's up?
Mad respect.
Shouts out. I'm kidding. That was a joke. Yeah, because I talk loud. Cause
Yeah, okay.
they're probably listening.
They're on their way to bed.
Yeah.
I was reading this article recently, and it was about how penalties are kind of an unfair. Well, everyone kind of agrees that penalties are just like an unfair representation of like a foul in the box or like unfair penalty for that. I want to give Jack's opinion on this too.
Okay.
Back when the MLS was like the old, I'm not sure what it was called. It's like the NSWL or something like that.
I think it's
National
NWSL.
Soccer.
I think. Right?
NWSL.
I
Is
think
it-
so.
I don't know what the acronym is, but there was before the MLS in like the
New
70s and
World.
80s.
Is it New World? That sounds like some like conspiracy.
Oh no,
theories.
it's USL. I'm
The-
almost positive it's USL.
All right,
So-
there was an old league before that kind of flopped.
Okay.
And there was players like Pele and Beckenbauer, some of
Right,
these
I
like
remember.
legends.
I don't remember,
um,
but I remember you talking about it.
But instead of penalties, what they would do is like a hockey penalty where a player would start from the 35-yard line
Oh.
and run at the goalie, and the
Yeah.
goalie's allowed to like come out and meet him.
Mm-hmm.
And the like rate of success is only like 45%. But in terms of like penalties, like if a player is fouled at like the edge of the box and it's like a weak foul, technically
they
that's
take
a penalty.
And how
And
how
it's
far
like-
is a penalty from? It's from the dot, but like
Yeah.
how? I don't know. Like
It's
I
like
can't.
12 yards?
Yeah, 11 meters, 12
11
yards.
meters, 12 yards. And
Okay.
it gets converted 75% of the time. So like getting fouled at the edge box shouldn't be worth like 0.75 of a goal, you know?
Mm.
So it would be a lot more fun to just like see players run at each other
Mhm.
and just like try to score like a
it's
hockey
a
penalty.
one-on-one.
Yeah, they're kind of crazy.
That would be awesome. I definitely think that would be a lot more entertaining. Hockey
Right.
shootouts are awesome. Like
They are awesome, yeah.
like it really, and it also just showcases like the skills of both players. I feel like a lot of the times is like either one is just like amazing.
That is true.
Yeah. It gives them, the goalies a lot more dynamic versus
Yeah,
like
and they
guessing a
can-
way to dive.
Right,
They
exactly.
can come out and get big, which is much more like what goalies do in the game.
Right, and yeah, like they're actually representing what they do.
Right. It would definitely like simulate what an actual breakaway is like versus
Yeah.
like this weird penalty, which doesn't happen in the game ever.
I feel like it's tough because I think about like the way basketball handles penalties. You get 2 free throws.
Right.
I mean, but football, you get set back. It's like the punishment should fit the crime, I guess. And I didn't know those statistics about like 0.75 and all that, but I don't know. I feel like those, like especially in basketball, just like 2 free shots that like some players are just better than others at taking free throws, obviously, but that's a pretty proportional response for like going up for a shot, and like you get to take each one of those points
Right.
individually. So that's kind of, I don't know. I'm kind of
Well,
rambling.
it's tough because it could be a really soft foul and you weren't it wasn't like you had a really clear shot on goal or anything like that. You were just in the box and you got a soft foul and then it's a penalty, or if you really did get fouled when you were in on goal and you were going to score, but those both of those penalties have the same
Snap! They scored.
effect or whatever. You know what I mean?
Oh, this is the goal.
Yeah, I think.
But sorry. Like, what
Yeah.
are you just proposing that like something?
Well, quick shout out to the article again. It's about a guy named John Mueller. I read him a lot. He's for the Athletic, and they looked at like kind of they have this metric possession value. It's basically at any given point what percent chance a team has of getting a goal at that position. So it's like if a goalie is just kicking it out at that point, you're probably going to get a goal 1% of the time in that possession.
Yeah.
Versus if it's like a breakaway 1-on-1 with the keeper, that possession, it's going to probably get like a 50% chance of scoring a goal. The average possession value of like when a penalty occurs, like the penalty foul occurs, is like 6%. Like a player in that position usually has a 6% chance. That team has a 6% chance of scoring, and then it goes up to a 75% chance of scoring, which is a lot different than basketball, which is like, sometimes it's valuable to foul someone who's about to get 2 points because you foul them and then they have to actually make 2 free throws to get those 2 points.
Make them earn it.
I mean, I think it's like it is weird because it's not really, a direct correlation of the foul to the percentage or whatever of goal scoring potential. But also, I feel like I sometimes say this a lot on different like referee decisions or whatnot, but also it's like part of the game. As a defender, you just have to be very careful, and that kind of changes how they defend in the box.
Yeah,
And so I don't know if that's a fault of the game or of penalties, or if that's just kind of another aspect, and it makes it so when you're in the box, you have to defend differently, and you have to be a little bit more careful, which I don't think is like, that's just could also just be.
Yeah, I agree.
It is an interesting part of the game.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Tommy, do you know why they got rid of them taking the pens like that kind of?
The hockey style ones?
Hockey style ones, I think just like the MLS was created, and because that was the old league, then the MLS was created, and they just like, I'm not sure what the decision making process was, but they were like, let's just make it more like European soccer to appeal to those markets.
Also,
But
maybe injuries. They're going right at these
I don't think
goalkeepers.
The
I don't
goalies
think there was any big injuries.
Well,
But like, yes, it's like,
it's not so different than just normally. Like, I don't know.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
it
But
usually happens, but
one
it is
thing-
like pretty dangerous play.
Yeah. One thing, something just to go back to that basketball thing. I don't want anyone on the internet to roast me potentially, but like 2 points in basketball is a lot different than a goal. in
Yeah,
soccer.
I was
Right.
yeah.
like a lot different. So.
Like a goal is maybe 20, 30 points worth in basketball.
Which is, that's the biggest thing about soccer games. They can be decided by that. Like you can have a bunch of great chances and still end up with a 0-0 game.
Yeah.
So like a penalty is literally like such a huge decision, and you don't want like a weak foul to decide a game. And a lot of times it does. So it's like, it's kind of the nature of the game, and that's what like, there's gonna be like bad goals and that decide games anyway. Like people are gonna get upset about a lot of things. But that is soccer, that's kind of the nature of it.
Yeah.
I have a question. So I feel like
Yes.
in America, soccer obviously is not one of the biggest sports. It has a much smaller or like viewership or whatever, which can be seen in the fact that MLS is not really that big.
And that stadium is pretty packed.
Yeah, shout out Chicago Fire.
Yeah.
Soldier Field.
But what am I trying to say? What was I talking about?
You had a question. You had a quandary.
Oh yeah, so
Sorry,
I feel like
interrupted
one of the complaints about soccer I've heard is that it just like can't appeal to American market because not enough goals are scored. So I guess people see it as boring or whatever, as opposed to basketball where they're scoring 100 points, or football where there's usually a lot more touchdowns than there are goals in soccer or whatnot. So I guess I don't know how to phrase that as a question exactly, but like, what do you guys think about that, or about America not succeeding in U.S. because of that?
Yeah. Well, I guess, Jack, why don't you watch soccer? I guess we could just put it on Jack.
Bro, what are you doing?
Man.
That's a good question. I guess if I really had to analyze it on the spot, it is, I think the average person like me, let's just say, like I'm just your normal plebeian, like surf. I feel like those games, like there's always like a hook or something. Like basketball, they're scoring pretty much every time they're up and down the floor. Every single time they're on the floor, like someone could do something amazing, Football is the same thing. It's like they're driving towards each other, and these huge dudes are like smacking into each other like as hard as they can. Like that's awesome, you know.
Yeah.
And it's just like even if you don't really like, and like truthfully, I don't even really watch football, like American football. But like if there's a game on, like I'll still watch it because it's just like fun to see these dudes like the barriers to entry are I feel like are a lot lower,
Mhm.
you know. A lot of people don't like to watch baseball, but I do because every pitch is like like a chess game. It's very interesting to me. Now with soccer, I feel like I feel like growing up and like playing FIFA with you guys all the time and whatnot, I was never very good, and it's because I didn't watch, and it's because I don't know like the patterns and the intricacies of like the defense and the offense and stuff. And I feel like on a certain level, like as a viewer, you have to understand that part of the game. Like I know that there's strikers, I know that there's midfield, I know there's defenders, I know there's goalie, but the only part that I care about is when they're within 20 yards of the,
Yeah.
which is literally why they have NFL Red Zone.
Yeah.
That's what we
Yeah.
did like on every Sunday. Like we would just put on Red Zone, and it would be like, okay, like this game's happening, because even that is like that's just constant simulation of like you're within 10 feet of
They have
the
that
touchdown.
for soccer for Champions League.
Oh really?
It's like new this year. It's called what a
Golazo show.
Oh dude,
Yeah.
I would
It's-
pay to
it's
see that.
It's really.
But I mean,
cool.
how do they? But it just goes back and forth so fast. Like I feel like
Yeah, they show like chances, goal scoring opportunities, and then goals too.
Yeah.
And they just like switch back and forth, and it's
Yeah, they'll be
basically
like-
like Scott Hansen.
like 6 games at once or
Yeah.
whatever.
It's
you
like
know?
Now
recent
we're
highlights. It's not
jumping
like
over to
live.
Chelsea.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Well, just like I feel like just in summation, like I feel like I'm not trying to roast anyone, but like I feel like in relation to sports, like the attention span of the average sports viewer is a lot lower. And like soccer takes a certain amount of like appreciation for like the art, the team aspect, the build up. It's a huge deal when someone scores a goal because everyone's like working for 45 minutes at a time to do this,
Mhm.
and it really only ever happens like once or twice a game. And when you watch highlights, okay, sorry, this is a really long-winded answer. But when you watch like highlights and stuff, I don't really even care about the chances that they had. Like, oh, that was so close. Like, why would I care about that? why would I want to watch a compilation of LeBron hitting the rim over and over again? It doesn't. And so the only parts of the game, at least to me, are when someone hits a crazy shot from across the field or whatever at the top of the box. Like that's when I'm like, oh, soccer's amazing. And you figure out that it took half an hour to get
Yeah.
that basically.
Yeah. That's
Honestly, that's very fair. I feel like that's like a very interesting response because now I'm like, dang, why do I like this sport?
No, I mean I'm jealous
it
that you guys
boring?
do.
So for me, I think the like scarcity and rarity of goals is like what keeps me in, because if I'm seeing like 80 shots in a basketball game, like, and it's the same thing back and forth, like when I watch basketball, sometimes I just put on the last 2 minutes and then I can just see like,
Right.
oh, I see who won,
Yeah.
And for soccer, you really have to watch the whole 90 minutes because the goal could have happened in the first minute, it could have happened in the 45th minute, could have happened whenever. And if you just put on the last 10 minutes, like you might miss the game.
That's the thing. I feel like with soccer, it's like compared to basketball or something.
Mhm.
There'll be a couple highlights or whatever throughout the game, but it's kind of one. A basketball game is won over the course of the whole game. All
Yeah.
4 quarters, whatever. And not that soccer isn't, but soccer definitely has more like highlights ish, or that more important highlights. Like when someone scores a goal,
Yeah.
that's so important.
Right.
Mhm.
And yeah, like Max was saying, you do never know when those are going to happen. Yeah, I don't know. And I think also, like, obviously soccer is very successful in the rest of the world, Europe especially. But I think it obviously helps that, that's kind of, it's wrapped up in their culture as well.
Yeah, I was gonna say
And their
yeah.
history.
They grew up playing.
Right.
Like
And
they
so
grew
that
up their
all,
parents taking them to games, watching games.
Mhm.
I
right,
grew
that,
up
that all helps.
going to baseball games. So.
Yeah.
Exactly. That all helps. And I think that is kind of why it is hard to just make it appealing to Americans, because they're like, okay, yeah, it's not like I care who wins or loses really as much. And so if they're just looking for the highlights, then yeah, it is tough to watch. But yeah, like you're saying, I do love to watch the whole game because yeah, I'm like, oh, I'll watch like a good pass and be like, oh my gosh, that was awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think
see,
you're-
I don't. Well, I mean, if I see like a good pass, I'm like, that was cool. But it has to be something like he
Yeah.
flipped it up over his head and like biked it to his friend.
Yeah, I think your analogy to baseball is like pretty similar to my experience, because I always have to justify why I like baseball to people because
Yeah.
it's deemed a very boring sport.
Right.
But I think the small things when watching a baseball game really
It's really just about the little things.
no, honestly,
It's
like
about- it's the
like,
devil's in the details.
I love watching like someone with a good curveball, and there's like a lot of people would watch like a ball in the dirt and be like that's just like a ball, versus like that was like a good pitch because
Right,
it was in
he's
a
trying to
certain situation. He's trying
chase
to
it, yeah.
do something. I
Right.
think there's a lot of situations in a soccer game that it might not be a highlight to a lot of people, but it's like incredibly interesting to me that it's
Right.
like, oh,
because you
that-
know what's happening. That's what I was saying. Like you need to know. So there's like a certain level of like knowledge. I feel like you need to have.
Yeah, it's kind of like a chess match. Like this team is going down. They're trying to break down their defense
Right.
in this way, and then they tried something new this time. You know that keeps me coming back. They're like, they made a new run that they didn't do last possession.
Yeah.
And stuff like that is like, it's just like there's so much going on.
Yeah. I want to watch
think it's
soccer now.
interesting. We're watching soccer right
Harry's
now.
really
Yeah.
flip flopping on
There's
whether he
5
likes
minutes
soccer or
left.
not.
Exactly. I'm just a sponge. I have no unique
You've no
opinions.
spine.
Yeah.
You've no backbone.
My thing is when I watch soccer, like I want to sit down, have an hour and a half. Like I know I'm gonna sit down for an hour and a half, no commercials, and
That is
I
nice
can
too.
enjoy
That's
it.
That's
fair.
why that's one of my biggest problems watching American football is like so many commercials. It takes 3.5 hours to watch a full game.
Yeah.
That is so long. What the heck?
That's
Yeah.
probably why they don't. Like MLS isn't that big because no one wants to buy ads for it because there's no ads.
Yeah.
And like
Part of it,
there's
yeah.
in basketball there's a break like every 3 minutes.
Yeah.
Football there's breaks all the time. Baseball there's a break literally after every inning. It's like we just figured it out. I think like really there's an ad break all the time. Like
Yeah,
So,
Mhm.
I don't know.
it's tough.
Yeah.
Hey Jack, do you want to do a little Luigi's Trap House transition?
Wait. No, we're good.
No Top Golf.
No Top Golf. I mean, we're gonna have to cut this off as soon as they text me.
Yeah. Well,
We've
transition.
we've got some time. I feel like.
Yeah. What do we want to transition to?
We'll think about it while
We'll
you
think about it.
Do a little transition.
Little Luigi. This is a song I wrote called Luigi's Trap House. Shoot.
Should I go get it?
No, I got it.
Jack, currently for those listening, Jack is struggling to get into position
He dropped his pick.
with his guitar.
Sorry.
He's flustered.
Yeah, a little bit. Well, I've never been on TV before.
He's normally on the other side of the mic.
Right. Nope.
Ice. Box to box.
Sachi.
Luigi. Sachi.
Well, actually, no. I
Major bag alert.
didn't realize that. I didn't realize that was the name of it, but that's the.
Well,
Oh, that's our little
That's
our transition music. Yeah.
yeah. When I sent it, or when I sent it to you guys, the first time, I didn't have a name. It was just called like weird hip hop thing, and I just wanted to like make something that was like a little different flav. You know what I mean? So I was like, kind of like a nice chill, like just like, kind of like to ease
Yeah.
into the podcast, and like all of those little transitional pieces in the podcast were all intros that I was trying to send to them. So that one was a little strange.
No, I like that one a lot though.
Yeah, I appreciate that. But I had this little like melody for the strings, and it was just, and then Thomas said Luigi's Trap House.
It does like sound like
It
the
does
kinda
Luigi's
sound like that.
Mansion
It does.
music, but with like trap beat on it.
Yeah. So that's what that's what it's named now.
Can
So
you
thank
tell
Thomas.
us a little bit about like what making the intro that
Oh,
we
yeah.
use right now? Like,
Absolutely.
what kind of?
Yeah. So I was 22 years old, living in Nashville. You know,
Still am.
still am. Yeah, struggling songwriter, musician, producer, that sort of thing. Basically, I wanted to make it sound like every FIFA song you've ever heard. So I listened to a lot of FIFA music from, you know, the best soundtracks. FIFA 12 being my personal favorite soundtrack. A lot of really
Your influences, Milky Chance.
Milky Chance, yeah.
yeah,
all
yeah,
the-
exactly.
Come on.
Barbara Streisand. Ooh, I want to go.
Avicii.
Like, yeah, right, exactly.
Oh.
So I kind of took all those and I tried to make like an amalgam of them. And I kind of had this idea, just like this, like boom, 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 because I wanted to sound like also like an intro to a FIFA game, where there's like flashes of people playing.
Yeah.
Oh, I think it's still going. I think the computer just went to sleep.
Oh.
Yeah, I think it is too.
Well, who knows? We'll see.
Let me text Connor.
Um,
Let me see if it matters if they have computers on. Does it matter?
who knows? Yeah, who knows if
Might-
anyone is ever gonna even hear this if
Yeah.
it's being recorded.
But anyway, so I was like that little like thing popped in my head, and I just like did a little voice memo on my phone, and then I remember I just sent that to you guys, just that like the thing with like, you know, the guitar crazy soloing over it. Yeah, right. Kind of like Electric Love vibes. Shout out. Anyway, actually, I'm not gonna shout him out because I think it's bad now. But anyway, you guys said I want there to be like announcers on it, and it would be really cool if there was some like people like, you know, announcing over it. And then you guys sent me a bunch of YouTube videos with like some of your favorite like parts of it, and I just like combed through like each second. What's up, Connor? Shouts out. And just kind of like plucked my favorite little you know, voiceover parts from it, and just kind of
Drug ball.
put them all in. And if you notice,
Lewandowski.
for the first season of Box to Box, the intro was a lot longer, and we decided that it should be probably a little shorter just for a podcast. So then for the second season, I shortened it up, cut about 30 seconds out of it, and now we have the one we have today.
Hell yeah. Connor, are we doing good? We're still going? We're still going. Let's go.
Go.
This
Oh,
is
yeah,
free form.
6 minutes of extra time.
I know. So wait, we're still watching this Chicago Fire game in the background.
0-0.
0-0. But this is their second game of the season. The first one was 0-0
Yep.
So this
See,
is not appealing to the American audience.
Well, yeah, I was gonna say
No.
Jack is probably like, this is boring. I just wasted 90 minutes for a 0-0 game.
Yeah.
I mean,
FA Cup or Carabao Cup, that was the best 0-0 I've ever seen.
Mm-hmm.
That's crazy.
yeah. I mean, yeah. I mean, I think it's a combination of like a lot of things that Thomas said too, and then what you said, Harry, too, about like just culturally, just like if you don't grow up with it, because I feel like you guys all grew up with it, you know.
Yeah.
I mean, we were all on the soccer team,
Right.
but
Jack, goalie.
I had the
Oh.
most own goals in school history.
I would say even like going from playing FIFA to watching soccer, but when I first started watching it, I probably didn't follow it as much as I am now, just because I agree it is more boring than watching football or basketball when I started. But once you start like watching it more, getting into it, you learn the it becomes more interesting.
One thing I was
Do it, Jack.
come
on,
watch
do it.
soccer.
Mm-hmm.
One thing was like I didn't watch football a whole lot, and then what got me to watch football every Sunday was playing fantasy football.
Right.
And then I was like, you know, I would watch every Sunday because I wanted to see I had a personal stake in it, you know,
Yeah.
because I would win.
FPL.
Right, I would win like a free beer or something if I won a league. So,
That's how I know like most football players is
Fantasy.
fantasy.
yeah,
Madden.
that too.
Yeah.
But I feel like once you also know like the stories, you know, kind of like the narratives.
Right.
It's like if you're just kind
You're
of
following
jumping
a
into it.
player all season basically.
Right. It's like jumping into a TV show like midway through. It's
Mm.
like you don't know what's going on.
Yeah.
Right.
It's kind of like, you know, part of like what makes soccer I think so enjoyable is like, you know, what these players are about, you know, like the stories of the clubs and all the history and like how much it means to them, and each of these players individually, because you don't know who comes from where and what their beef and stuff like that is all really interesting. But
Well, I've been trying to watch a little bit of like F1 recently.
Yeah.
And I watched like the end of last season, I watched a couple races. And it was that final was like one of the craziest sporting events I've ever seen. Like, it was absurd. It was so cool. So I'm excited. I think their season starts up again soon, but it is kind of tough just because I'm not really versed in it at all, and I'm not like really into cars like that.
Mhm.
No, I'm
just
not
excited.
Not like that.
Yeah.
I'm not into cars like that.
Yeah, I know. I mean, I just wanted a car to get me from here to there, but so like it's tough because when they're like releasing these new cars and stuff, I'm like, okay, that looks cool, but I don't really, I don't really know much.
Car
about the,
2 is coming out.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Well, no, because they
Releasing-
release every year. They release their new model and stuff,
Right.
and people are like, "Oh my gosh, like look at those hubcaps."
Yeah.
I have no
Yeah.
For me, I'd rather like root for like the driver. I feel like.
Well, yeah, no. So they're on a team and stuff. But I guess what I'm just saying is, in relation to what Jack was saying with soccer, it's kind of hard to like get into it, and so I'm trying to because I want to, and I think it's interesting. But it does take some time to get familiar with the drivers, familiar with the cars, kind of, and also know the history and stuff, and like what if they have any rivalries or friendships or kind of all that sort
Right.
of stuff is
Mhm.
all plays into it. And I
Which
can see that for soccer too.
Which is why I like your podcast, because then that kind of fills me in on all that stuff.
We're trying to tell everyone. Oh my gosh, Fire have a chance here. 2 minutes to go.
This is actually part of the game that we
Uh-huh.
haven't seen.
Send it.
Oh,
Passing around.
the ref's in the way. The ref's in the way.
This is good.
This is good soccer.
Oh, come
Oh.
on.
See, that was interesting. Oh, that was a
That was-
handball.
Oh no.
This
I
is
was-
a great podcast.
I wanted to
Yeah,
ask
yeah.
Oh.
you and
He's
so
running.
Thomas
He's running.
and Jack. Thomas and Jack, you both watch football and then baseball too, and I
Mhm.
think that's interesting because the reason I don't watch baseball, amongst a lot of different reasons, I guess, but there's like 100
'Cause you
and
hate
something,
America.
100 and something games, right?
Yeah,
162.
162. Yeah.
That's just like too many to.
I mean,
for
we
me
don't
to
watch
catch up.
every
I don't
single
watch.
game.
It's usually like I always watched it like with my dad. I would come home from like school and then it'd be just like on.
It's
you
just
know?
on,
Also,
yeah.
we
While
played.
we're-
You know.
I feel like,
Yeah.
well, soccer too, if you take into account all these different competitions, they probably are playing
They play
100 games
very
a year or
often,
something like
yeah.
that.
And I think
Yeah.
with football, it's once a week for 16 or 17 weeks now, and people change their schedules around football. Like it's become like people go to church on Sundays and then watch football. Like Sundays are for football.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I think the rarity of that, like it's once a week, people watch those games, and that's why it's like so popular. It's still the most popular sport in the US.
Yes,
Wait,
sir.
football?
Yeah.
Yeah. Wait. Well, I was gonna say, me and a friend, a colleague, were talking about actually this exact thing. Like what would be the U.S. equivalent of like Premier League football, which is so, like, the one of the biggest things in Europe, probably the biggest thing. Like people like don't talk to their family members because they're like
Mm.
members of this. They support this club, and I feel like the closest thing to that in America is SEC football.
Yeah, like college. football.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Eh.
Oh my god. Yeah, like in the regional.
Solved.
Yeah, but it just like consumes those people's lives.
Yeah. No.
I agree with that. I my understanding comes from Big Ten football, which is still pretty big.
Right.
Probably the second biggest conference.
Hence the name.
And
Yeah. Second
like,
biggest 10.
communities are built around like the football team. Like bars are around the area.
Right.
Like tailgates. There's just like everything is like surrounding the Sunday afternoon games. That's the build up in the fall. Part of it is like if you go to games in Europe, it's like the whole week
Oh,
is
snap.
talking about the game, and then is Topgolf ready?
Topgolf just texted us.
Actually,
Oh, shit.
Yeah, I mean, they said, "Welcome to Topgolf. Your bay is almost ready. Please respond yes if you are ready to play, or no if you need more time."
Well, what if you say no and they put us in the back of the?
That's what I'm saying.
well, we need more time. So you have to.
Let's
Okay.
just say no.
What?
Well, I'm just gonna
Say
I'm just
yeah.
gonna ghost them for a second.
Ghost them for like 5 minutes and
Yeah.
say yes, and then see how much time.
Okay, then they'll be like, "We probably."
Maybe this is a good point to wrap up anyway.
Yeah, honestly,
guess so,
I'm gonna
yeah.
We're
grab
out
the
of time,
guitar. I'm gonna
guys.
start playing us out.
Yeah. Yeah, play the outro. Well,
Play
thank
the
you
outro,
everyone for
yeah.
listening. Shout out to Jack. Thank you for hopping on the pod.
Oh
Thank
yeah,
you for
absolutely. Thank you
Connor
guys so
for
much
Shout
for
out Connor.
having me.
being behind the screen.
Computer.
It was an absolute pleasure getting to. I'm a big fan of the podcast. so.
And we will see you next week.
Wait, keep talking, Harry.
Yeah, this is kind of when you do the outro.
All right.
You can check us out on Twitter, Box to Box, on Instagram. All right, peace out, boxers.